Back to Eden Growers, it's March 10th. That means spring is on the horizon. It's going to be here really soon. This is Creedmoor Fury coming to you from my happy place within my wife's greenhouse, where I have these really, really cool lemon trees that are growing. They were gifted to me by another BTE grower. We were really, really happy to get them, and I spent all winter long acclimating them to my place and getting them really, really comfortable and happy. And guess what? Today, we're going to make baby lemon trees. I'll give you a quick backdrop on these. Right now, it stands about 7.5, almost 8 feet tall, this particular tree. And it wasn't doing so well when we got it because we put it right out here where it was cold. So I had to give it a little bit of love. And it's inside these Airpots. So I'm going to put a little bit of emphasis on these Airpots that we're growing these lemon trees in. If ever there was something that Creedmoor Fury was doing that was gimmicky, it would definitely be these Airpots, okay? I found these Airpots a while back when I was looking for something suitable to replace the soils, the deep beds of soils that I was already growing my plants and my trees in. And I found these Airpots, and I found that the root breathes all the way around 360 degrees. Since it can breathe 360 degrees around, all the way around it, it's just like if we were to plant this in, say, for instance, Paul Gauchi's orchard, where the depth of his wood chip soil and compost is pretty much elbow deep, okay? So because the Airpots allow the plant to breathe all the way around it, this is as similar as we can get to planting this tree right within the confines of a garden or a vineyard or an orchard that's set up with those parameters. So there's probably another reason why it took a little bit of time for it to evolve to this place where we see all this lush green foliage, and it looks fantastic now compared to how it used to look. So join me here. I'm going to show you how I make this branch right here into its own tree and this branch right here into its own tree. Let's just take a moment for me to show y'all what we're going to need to go ahead and create some baby plants with this single lemon tree. First thing we need is these two, well, they're like little eggs. They interlock together. I covered them last fall when we actually created some clones on our crabapple trees up towards the house. Now I want to use the same thing for these lemon trees. And these can be ordered online. I forget where I got these, either eBay or Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description so you can find something either similar or these. I like to use these because they're effective. Many of the trees that you see growing around us were done like this. I also like to use this root boost. It's got some plant hormones in it that makes rooting a little bit easier. And you can pick this up at Ace Hardware or some of the other stores local to you. I'm sure Menards has it. Oh, I can't be sure of anything. It's possible that the other home centers have it as well. You can ask for it by name. It's called Garden Tag Root Boost Rooting Hormone. Honey works too. You can use honey as well. So if you've got some honey, especially the type that's not pasteurized, give that a try. What else? Hardy pair of gardening scissors. This is Scott's brand. I also keep the Fiskars brand handy. This brand seems to be a little bit hardier for cutting hardwood branches close to the trunk. We're going to need to clear some of those branches so that we have some space for the rooting balls. Got a little soil scooper. And I got a mug here to transfer some moisture to the rooting balls. I do like to use the rooting balls with dry soil. The dry soil looks like this. I'll go ahead and I'll show you some now. So there's no dirt in this, okay? This is all essentially decomposed wood chips, compost, and maybe a tiny bit of vermiculite. If you need information on how to make a really good soil like this, go ahead and check out my soil making video. I'll even leave a link to that in the description as well. We need to talk about branch selection, or trunk selection, or location where we're going to place the half rooting root balls. Okay? They need to surround something that fits into this little hole right here, and this particular size rooting ball will allow you about, I guess I would estimate that to be about a 3/8 of an inch diameter trunk or limb. It doesn't really matter, which trunk or limb you use, but in this particular case, my goal is to keep these lemon trees shorter. I'm going to be taking this as a new plant. Somewhere in the same height range, I'll do the same thing. Both of these trunks are in that 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch range, so they're good selections. We'll use our scissors to snip whatever is in the way of the rooting balls before we actually put the rooting ball around the trunk. Here's a branch you can see right here at my belly. And the reality of it is, folks, that I could take these spikes right here. Those of you that are not familiar with citrus trees, they often come with spikes. I can clip them off. I can clip these little leaf sets off, and it's not going to be a problem for the branch. It's not going to be a problem for the tree. It certainly isn't going to be a problem for rooting, because let's just talk about the advantages of this. In particular, one of the reasons why I like to do this, I got spider webs on me. One of the reasons I like to use these is because when I put the soil in here and I captivate the limb, it protects the limb, and it affords me the ability to utilize the actual, well, we'll get a little nerdy, but the phloem and the xylem of the plant, of the tree, is what's going to draw the nutrients, or the nutrients are going to flow up and down those. And if I can utilize the nutrients from the tree and its root, then I'll also get the moisture from the tree and the root. I don't have to be so diligent about making sure that we lose moisture in here. I don't have to be so diligent about whether or not, you know, the branch is going to have what it needs to produce roots. It's going to, because the hormones are already in this. It's already capable of doing that. It's well adept to doing that, and we've not found a tree where it won't do that. The roses, same thing. Even behind me, I've got the crab apples, same thing. They're all rooting and they're new trees now. So we're going to introduce it this way because it's very helpful. It's not hurtful, because the tree is going to use some of its energy from the root to provide sustenance for the branch as it becomes a tree. And the burden of me really closely watching this process off of me and frees me up to do other things. So within 8 weeks, we're going to see some roots. The fact that you can see through this means it's going to be easier to see those roots. Let's see how that part's done. So here we have the lemon tree that we're going to start on. I've already taken the liberty of removing a couple of the branches because I know that I want my rooting ball to end up somewhere in this height. And I'm just going to remove a couple more to clean up the trunk a little bit. I'll show y'all what this looks like. You can see there's one of the spikes. You wouldn't want to get that stuck in you. And of course, well, y'all have seen these before. They really, really smell good too, so wrinkle them up in your hand and put them right back there. Anyway, we're going to pull a little bit more of this off. Just clipping them. Y'all could root this. Take just a little bit more off. The idea behind this is, when I'm done rooting this and establishing a root here, I'll already have a pretty substantial sized tree. So it'll go from here, it'll be clipped right off below the rooting ball, and it'll be set into a pot of soil. So with an active root growing already, it'll be a very quick and smooth transition into becoming its own baby little tree. And we already have a boost on things. It really, really is a fantastic way to do this. So right here, I can show y'all now. I've got the rooting ball here. I will put the black side towards the sun and the clear side towards the ground. And again, I'll remind everybody that the clear side is what we use to show us that the roots are growing sufficiently. We also want to put the larger of the two funnels facing up. That way it makes getting a little bit of water, at least initially, getting a little bit of water in here easier. You can see the other side, it's a little bit smaller. Things are going to work just fine for us. The next step is going to be to actually cut a small amount, about 1 inch of this bark layer off, revealing the fleshy inside to the trunk. And then that's where we're going to paint our rooting hormone, and then we'll apply the ball halves together and we'll be in business. We'll give it a little bit of water. The next thing you know, we're going to have roots to show. All right, so this is the part where we're going to cut the bark or the outside skin off of the limb so that we can gain access to the inner soft tissue. I'm just going to use this folding lock back blade. It works really well. Y'all make sure that you're careful with things like this. If you need to wear gloves, wear gloves. I am not going to make today be the day that you see Creedmoor Fury cut himself. All right, trust me. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make one sort of circle around this particular branch right here, and then 1 inch higher I'm going to make another circle around it, and then I'm going to carve out the little bit of skin that's wrapped around it. Watch how easy this is, folks. It's really, really easy. Just going to go around it like that by laying it into it. You're not looking to cut a deep groove. You're just looking to essentially score the bark. And then roughly 1 inch higher, you're going to do the same thing. Follow it all the way around the trunk. You're not going to harm the tree, trust me. And once you've got those two circles, I'm not sure if you can see them. One is here, one is here. Now we're going to gently work from close to away, peeling that bark off, revealing the inner flesh. It's really, really easy, folks. I think, suffice to say, if you were to leave the branch like this, everything up above the top would probably die. And there you have it. Okay, now that's ready to receive our root hormone. Alright folks, I'm going to go ahead and dip my finger in here into the rooting hormone best as I can and start to paint it onto that little fleshy portion right there. Okay? Be kind of generous with this stuff. It's okay if you get it in other places. I'll also make note that my hands are clean. I washed them before I started this process. It's helpful to start out clean. We don't introduce something to the tree at this point in its process that could become a detriment to it later. Okay, so here you can see one final fitment. I'm going to go ahead and take the rooting ball halves and just set them over it to be sure that they're going to close completely. This small horizontal branch will actually serve to keep it from sliding down. I like that. And then after this is cut off, it'll be cut off beneath here. This will stay. Okay? So in our next step, we're going to go ahead and get soil and put it right inside this. If anybody's concerned with getting soil on their hands or any negative effects associated with that, use that. Okay, so there's one half. Kind of packing it in a little bit because I don't want it to fall out when I position both of these halves next to each other. But when you do pack it in, it takes a little bit more effort to get your first batch of moisture in it. So if y'all are not averse to getting mud and sloppy soil all over you, feel free to moisten this first. Now we have both ball halves and we're ready to apply them to the tree. We're going to go ahead and we're going to align these as best as we can. It can be sort of turned and rotated right around that branch, trying to line up these little detents as best as I can. And there it is. Now, just one caution statement, folks. This rooting ball has some weight to it. With the windows open, or if this was outside, it'd be subjected to the forces of nature. The wind will stress this. So I've actually taken one additional step and tied the top of my branch up to another string that's being held in place by the frame of the greenhouse. This is an opportunity that I might not have if I was doing this outside. So the benefits of this are kind of vast, but the reality of it is this is part of our operations and this is how we do things. And there are other things that y'all can do in your own places and spaces that would facilitate the same thing. Be mindful, I could have put some stakes into the ground, maybe some 1/2-inch EMT tubing, and I could have run some cross bracing to sort of trellis this in place to protect it from the wind, to protect it from being blown around. I was saying before, I really like the use of these Airpots because they sort of melt into the wood chips below, and they really, really do allow me to key themselves in. I could pile the chips all the way up against the side of them, and they're sort of, these trees are actually getting their moisture from down below through these Airpots. The wood chips themselves, the compost that's in here is hydrophilic, so that means that it's going to take in moisture into it like a sponge, just like you see this wood chip doing here. Eventually, these heavy rains that we've had will bank into the soil. You can see it's moist. It's not because I watered, it's moist because this is a conduit, and it's continuously bringing oxygen, carbon dioxide, and H2O to the roots of my plant. So this is essentially set and done. Now all I have to do is take this little cup right here and water it. So folks, this is really valuable stuff. I mean, like I said, with spring on the horizon, we want to get these things done. When I'm looking here in 8 weeks, I'm going to see a bunch of roots on the back side of this, and we'll be looking to clip it off. And again, we'll use the same type of soil, same stuff, no dirt, and it'll get put into another pot. And these will get basically taken care of like they're babies. There'll be a feeding and watering cycle that they'll be adhering to, at least in the beginning. We're in the best possible chance they can to become large, thriving trees like the other ones that you see around us. And if you want to learn more about how we do that, don't forget to click the likey thing for the thumb, the subscribe thingy, and the notification bell. And you work through all 3 of those things and you can see a whole lot more content just like this. It's very helpful because I don't have to buy expensive lemon trees. I can propagate them right here.